We know that warmth is created in more than one way. A warm coat brings physical warmth, the gift of community brings warmth to our spirit, and the knowledge that someone cares brings warmth to the heart. A for Apple Learning Center has served the community for over 25 years and is dedicated to supporting and connecting families to essential resources in our community. What's on your heart? Are you exhausted at the lack of progress for people of color in business, politics, and life? This is Cindy Bright, the host of Heartbeat Radio. Each week, we explore this heart condition in the country that is affecting you and me. We have real conversations about what's necessary for change. It's time to change this dialogue. Will you join this Heartbeat weekly, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. on Rainier Avenue Radio?
This is the news on Rainier Avenue Radio.
A peer-reviewed study published in the February issue of the journal Health Affairs showed that many for-profit rehab programs charged inflated fees and used misleading sales practices to attract patients without evaluating their actual medical needs. Per NPR, the people answering the phones when a team of Yale University Health Studies researchers called weren't medical professionals. They were salespeople using aggressive marketing tactics to get credit card numbers while demanding a lot of cash up front, averaging more than $17,000. Researchers often found the sales pitch at for-profit clinics often focus on things that have nothing to do with medical care. The team found most programs don't provide evidence-based care using medications such as buprenorphine and methadone. These findings, based on data collected in 2019, come as far more Americans are dying from drug overdoses during the pandemic, more than 81,000 last year.
And that's your news on Rainier Avenue Radio.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not meeting Mrs. Jones in that cafe for a chat and nothing else, I'm listening to RainierAvenueRadio.world.
Good afternoon and welcome to Rainier Avenue Radio. My name is Carmen Pacheco Jones and I am with the Health and Justice Recovery Alliance. My co-host Anthony Powers is going to go ahead and introduce himself and then we'll jump right into the program.
Okay, I'm Anthony Powers. I'm with the Seattle Clemency Project. I focus a lot on reentry and helping people get their lives on track and build out a productive life after many years in prison, and a lot of them go on to be homeowners. There's probably 40 to 50 people who have done 20 years or more who, taking the right approaches, have gotten their life on track and are homeowners and are doing good. So I believe anybody can do it.
Yes, thank you, Anthony. And we're really excited to bring to you this afternoon just a voice of lived experience. Both Anthony and I have are individuals that experience justice involvement and incarceration. And for years now, we've been working to repair our communities that are disproportionately impacted by the criminal justice system and often have negative outcomes because of the pervasive disparities that exist within all of the systems that are influenced by dominant culture. So I just want to let you know, if you want to call in and ask questions or make comments, that number is 206-290-9685. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Anthony. He's going to introduce our program today. And thank you.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about 10 keys to building wealth in the Black community. And this is a long overdue subject. There's a reason that we call this radio broadcast, today's broadcast, Reparation without gentrification, is because a lot of times what we'll notice is it's kind of a play on words too. We'll notice that when we're pushed out of a neighborhood that has been a traditionally Black neighborhood, and then all of a sudden the city's investing in that neighborhood. They're investing in the roads to be fixed. They're investing in streetlights to be where there weren't streetlights. They're investing in paved sidewalks. They're investing in all the little subtle things that make for a better, more healthy, more vibrant community, and just the little subtle things that it makes you feel better living there. So when you feel better living there, then you behave differently. So we want to invest in ourselves, and we want to see city and state governments invest in us without seeking to take over the areas that we're in. Invest in us and let us live and thrive, and be productive ourselves.
Absolutely. You make such a good point that, the term that you use, being pushed out of our communities, and that's exactly what happens, right? We don't see an investment in our communities where we're at right now. We are forced out, and then we know that those community organizations, that sense of belonging that has been created as we existed in that community, often then doesn't follow us as we're pushed out. And so Anthony and I have made it part of our life's work to ensure that as we work statewide, that we're bringing recognition to this issue, and that we're working to elevate the Black voice and the Black experience, and ensuring that that voice is centered, and that we are looking at manners in which we can build wealth ourselves, that we don't have to access systems or dominant culture, that we within our own communities have the value, the expertise, the knowledge to build that wealth, to access. Anthony talked earlier about home ownership. I'm in Spokane. 73% of Black families in Spokane are renters, and we know that home ownership is a way to build equity into and economic stability as well. Yet oftentimes we're excluded from that opportunity because we're the economic disparity in wage earning, lack of access to jobs because of systemic racism. And even if we are able to get, jobs, then we have the banking industry that, views that little B that we put on to, that they put on to recognize that we are of a Black ethnicity, of a Black people, where our applications are often shuffled to the bottom, and we are not getting access. So Anthony, you put together some really great keys and points on that. Do you want to go ahead and introduce some of those?
Yeah, so when it comes to the 10 keys of building wealth in the Black community, I have as number one to invest in Black-owned businesses. And there's two different ways we can look at investing in Black-owned businesses, right? There's investing in Black-owned businesses that are already up and running, right? Like restaurants, stores, or any other Black-owned business. But first we have to find out where those businesses are. Be familiar. A lot of times they don't advertise themselves as a Black-owned business. They're just they look at themselves as they started a business, and they're doing what they can do to provide for themselves and their family. So, but the other way we can invest in Black-owned businesses is to invest in the startup of Black-owned businesses. We all have to buy cars. We all have to buy clothing. We all have to buy groceries, right? So if we can come together and actually invest in a car lot, invest in a clothing store, invest in a grocery store. It sounds ambitious, but it's something that we can do as a collective, right? So when we invest in these type of things, and the money stays within the Black community that much more. So we can invest in Black-owned businesses that already exist, but we could also think on a larger scale on how to invest in the growth of Black-owned businesses, like back in Black Wall Street, before they burned it down out of jealousy and hatred. There are Black people owning everything you can think of, and this was in a time period that was a lot more difficult than we currently live in. So we know that it's possible. We just need to come together and actually come with a viable strategy to accomplish these things.
Yes, yes. One of the things that I was thinking about in one of the projects that we have invested here in Spokane is utilizing city land that is just sitting there as surplus. They can't sell it, they can't do anything with it, but what they can do in a manner of reparation is give it to the Black community. And so we brought Black leaders together to work with the city, excuse me, on how that would work. And we're looking at building, housing development or farming, access to, healthy food is one of the things that has created such health disparities in the Black community. They've put all of the grocery stores so far out of our communities, we see a high rate of, diabetes and high blood pressure, cardiovascular issues because we don't have access to those fresh foods. And so I know that, Seattle is working on the same things. I follow you guys. Pre-COVID, I traveled over there and a lot of my time was spent there. And so I have a high investment, in that area. Anthony, are you aware of anything such as that's happening over there in Seattle?
Yeah, right now, last year they started what was referred to as the Black Brilliance Research Project, right? And it was city funded, but it's through an array of nonprofits in the Seattle area. And the thing was to come up with ideas, first tap into the community to see what and come up with ideas of how the city can invest in the black community, and then to have a return on that investment, right? So to really have that equitable lens that you're talking about, have that reparations lens that you're talking about. If they want to help us out, then invest in things that can be it can create wealth, it can create a better means, a better life for the people. Because a lot of times when you're living in those neighborhoods, the neighborhoods that we came from, right?
Yeah.
When you're living there, it creates despair just living there.
Absolutely.
So when you have a better place to live and a vision for the future, then we can do a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
And when we have something to invest in, when we have a place to invest our dollars in, the dollar circulates in the Black community around 6 hours, while it circulates in some other communities up to 3 weeks, showing that they invest in themselves, but we're not investing in ourselves.
That's true. That's so true. And, you bring up such a good point. And, I was raised on the east side of, that sounds weird, like a song, east side of Tacoma, over in Pierce County. It was called Shack Town, Shanty Town, and it was all, people of color there without resources. We didn't have a gas station nearby. I think we had a 7-Eleven and that was it. You had to go clear across town into the white neighborhoods to be able to get food. So yeah, great, great points. And I love that you said that, we ask, and I'll tell you, we utilize strategies of infiltration, get to that seat, get to that table, get to that person, that decision maker, and put yourself in their place as a decision maker. One of a project that Anthony and I work on collaboratively with Legal Foundation of Washington, they have over $240,000 in grants annually to work specifically on race equity issues, especially centered around civil legal aid. And so Anthony and I, along with some other members of the community, advise them on, what nonprofits they should be funding, or what organizations they should be funding. And traditionally or historically, it's only been, members of the dominant culture, excuse me, at those tables, advising on programs that are supposed to serve us. However, we're not getting access, right? You look at all of the rental and assistance that has come in from the federal government for COVID relief. I don't know how it's going over there in Seattle, but
same.
Yeah. One of the organizations that I sit on the board of, they received $5.4 million. They didn't have anybody that was speaking Spanish. They were hanging up on non-English speakers. They were putting just doing these assessments that excluded people, the people that were in the most need of help, the frontline workers. That's what we are. We're down there on the ground, in the healthcare systems and the retail systems, working and, supporting our communities, but we can't get access to the resources though, right?
Exactly.
And in a meeting yesterday, I compared, the nonprofit industrial complex to that being similar. There's these large organizations that are taking these government handouts, yet they want to punish us when we come and ask for the money. Like, we're no longer asking, we're getting the seat at the table, and we're directing where that funding is going and ensuring that our people are getting access. So Anthony, do you want to introduce I love that the second point is children, right?
Children, yeah. I mean that's the future, and and when we think of the future, a lot of times people think it's distance, it's but with children, the future isn't that far out, right? Yeah. So investing in our children, I have a personal philosophy, raising my stepdaughter, is that I try to raise her in a way to where she doesn't need me. She doesn't need me. She doesn't need my wife, right? And what I mean by that is teach our children everything they need to know to live life without us. They know how to pay the bills. They know about getting an auto loan, a home loan. They know how to pay their taxes. So as you're training them, age appropriate, as they're growing older, by the time they're 18, they're ready to hit the ground running, and they're not getting slowed down like a lot of adults, just learning the hard way, to where you really don't figure things out till you're in your 30s or 40s if you do then, right? So to raise our children in a manner where raise our children in an approach where they don't need us, they don't need to rely on us, right? And it's not saying that they're going to cut us off or abandon us, but it's just saying that they're going to be prepared for the world. When they hit the ground running, they're prepared for the world, and they have all that extra time that they don't have to get slowed down by mistakes and getting caught up in things and learning new systems. Then they can advance that much more, because they can invest that spare time into having a more fulfilling life. They can invest that time into building wealth, and then it'll become intergenerational, right? We got slowed down since the days of slavery because we came in not knowing nothing. We got punished for trying to be educated, and it slowed down an entire race. Yeah. So if we take a different approach with this, and we engage our youth, we engage them, give them the guidance, give them the different life skills training, and we train them on how to be leaders, then we're going to be a lot better off in the future, and the future isn't far away when it comes to children. So an example, I want to give an example of that, actually. I was just on a meeting about this earlier today, is Bridging Cultural Gaps, which is a nonprofit in the Seattle area that works with youth, and a lot of, they started off as a lot of immigrant issues, but now it's African American all the way around, because the African community for a while, they were like, hey, look, we're not black. Black is an African American thing. But then they had to come to realize, hey, look, we are black. African Americans are just Africans who got taken from Africa. I mean, but we're all from the same source, and we're all treated in similar manners over here, right? So one of the things that they're doing in a partnership with Microsoft, there's a couple young ladies at Microsoft who just started there within the last year and a half, Elsa Ramesh and Hanisha Aurora. So what they're doing there is they're taking a mentorship course on how to get what they like to call at promise youth. A lot of people want to call our youth at risk youth, right? No, they said they're at promise. They got promise. You just have to show them how to do it, right? So they take at promise youth, mentor them, and then the Microsoft people give them tech skills, right? So they give them tech skills. So then it's a 20-week course. And that's just the initial course is 20 weeks. So what they're doing in the first phase is teaching them web development, right? So then they're learning the skills of web development, and then they're going to Black-owned businesses and designing their websites for free. So it promotes Black-owned businesses, and it teaches their kids highly valued skills so that they're ready for the job force, and then they can get into a place like Microsoft, Amazon, where there's a million tech jobs open in America. So it's serving two purposes. It's serving the Black community by taking youth that a lot of people give up on, giving them new skills that will allow them to have not only a living wage, but above a living wage, to where they can invest in their future and their family's future. And it also invest in these Black-owned businesses to where they can thrive and they can have the marketing, the advertising that they need, but they can't afford because they're trying to keep their business up and running. So
I'm sorry, I just want to applaud,
Right.
that's beautiful. That is beautiful. And, if we could just replicate in all areas, access to tech jobs are, that is the wealth builder right there, right? And that economy or that industry has often been closed to individuals, Black individuals and stuff. So thank you so much for creating those pathways and working to build that project up and that access. I do something not quite as impressive as you, but in the healthcare industry, I previously worked as a African American health initiative specialist, and I still continue to do that role, however, not in public health. And what we had identified is that there's not enough Black individuals going into the healthcare industries. And, we have been subject to extreme historical, trauma and harm from the healthcare industry. We need people who look like us, who understand us culturally and can respond to our needs in a manner that is not does not provoke systemic racism or microaggressions or bias, and tries to otherize our experience when we're seeking healthcare. And one of the projects I'm working with is Providence healthcare systems around behavioral health, and just a stigma that's around that. Why aren't individuals accessing? But somebody brought it to my attention. Sandy Williams of the Black Lens in Spokane. She has developed this newspaper and this outreach and educating the community. But she spoke about reframing what mental health is, and mental health isn't always, medication, it's family supports. It's our natural support system that we have, relied on to be able to thrive generation after generation, even, beneath this dominant culture of oppression, to be able to still move forward. So one of their pathways that we found, we couldn't figure out, like, why aren't, our Black youth getting into these training classes, because it was training, it was free training. They actually pay you to become a certified medical assistant, not just a CNA, like a year-long program. They buy your books, pay you a livable wage, and yet nobody in there was Black. And come to find out, to get into the program, you have to submit a video of yourself talking about why you want to get into the program. But that video goes to a contact center in India where they screen who is eligible for the program. Thank you, right? Because exactly. Like that, that is ridiculous. We need people who understand, our culture, looking at us, because I'm 6'4", like I've been, like masculinized because of, and that's very common for the Black woman, right, to experience that, that hyper masculinization, like that white people perceive me as dangerous because I'm 6'4", any other place, any other race, like, they'd be trying to recruit me as a model, maybe 100 years ago, but you know what I mean? And so breaking down those barriers. So now that we know, what wasn't disrupting our people from getting access to those healthcare positions, okay, we can redirect them, and make sure that it's our people that are at the table making the decision who's getting into the program. So I love that you brought that up, Anthony. Thank you. Do you want to go on to the next one?
Yeah. So number 3. So we got invested in Black businesses, the children, and then number 3 is get involved politically, right? And what I mean by get involved politically, I'm going to say something that might not be popular with Black people. It's not just throwing away our vote to the Democrats, but it's saying our votes have power, right? So if we only make up around 4%, 3.5%, 4% of Washington State, then you say, well, we're not really going to make an impact. And that's how the approach can be, right? But when you look at the numbers, some of the legislative districts are decided by 500 votes. I've seen one that was like 49 votes. So imagine if we're 4% of the population and we automatically vote Democrat, we can literally play kingmaker. We can literally decide who controls the House and who controls the Senate, right? Yeah. And we don't have to stay loyal to that party. We can switch it up the next time until they start addressing our issues, right? Yeah. So we actually hold a lot of power just in the fact that if they don't just count us as being 90+% Democrat, then we can really and I know without getting political, I know some parties are kind of crazy, but the point is just to value our vote. So for us to get involved in the process and then to value our vote, I think this is going to bring a lot more solutions to the table, because they can ignore us for the longest, but once they see that we actually do have the power, even at 4%, then it could be a game changer. And a lot of the things that led to the discrimination in the past, the red line and all those things, it was all made by political officials. So for us to get involved, I think that's gonna bring a lot more solutions. But we need to come together and actually get involved in have a systematic approach to it. So if we want to build, and this affects our wealth. So if we want to build a key to black wealth, then we need to get involved politically.
Yeah, wow, that you speak my language on that one, because we actually have strategy sessions where we meet once a week. Somebody's running against our racist sheriff. We're going to identify who that person is. We're going to support them, and we're going to encourage them. We're going to go door to door. We work with political strategists. The same thing with our prosecutor. Getting people on city council, and making sure that we have our people there at the table, and that they know that the community is behind them. Exactly. So important. We identify early on like what seats need to be replaced, and then we activate those people, we tap them in, we get them, they might have never even thought about running for office, Exactly. And then, we're right there, with them, coaching them up, getting them, and boom, and it's such a beautiful thing to see, And, it's funny that you said about the political party, and I don't affiliate with anyone. I vote, and it was an eye-opener for me, because as somebody who had experienced, incarceration and had been excluded from using my power as a vote, I'm hanging out with the Democrats trying to talk to them about racial equity, and they don't care, they care about their property tax and stuff. So I got a rude awakening, so I hear you. And it looks like we're going to be going into a break, and we'll be right back with you. Thank you.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not translating the lyrics of Boogie Oogie Oogie for bored Europeans, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Celebrate Black History Month with Rainier Avenue Radio.world. You'll hear interviews, panel discussion, issues that impact your life on a daily basis. Celebrate Black History Month with Rainier Avenue Radio. Did I mention? Every Wednesday night, live musical performances from the historic Columbia City Theater. Rainier Avenue Radio celebrates Black History Month all month long. Interviews, icons, celebrating the history of Black Seattle, community leaders, community activists. In 1852, Seattle's first Black resident arrived. National viewpoints. In 1943, Harborview Hospital hired its first Black Black Rick Dupree, Tina Marie, and me, Tony B. In 1961, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. made his first and only Seattle appearance. Did I mention every Wednesday in February, every Wednesday night, in celebration of Black History, live musical performances from the historic Columbia City Theater. I'll say it again. every Wednesday. Live musical performances from the historic Columbia City Theater in celebration of Black History Month. People you know and some you may not. It's a celebration of Black History Month on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
This is the news on Rainier Avenue Radio.
The Farmers Co-op Antiques Mall in Central Oregon sells decoy ducks, rusty typewriters, and pins with swastikas. Per NPR, one shopper was looking for toys and instead found a case of swastikas. The price tag said $36 each. The pins were neatly lined up next to an ashtray with a blackface caricature from the now defunct Coon Chicken Inn, a restaurant chain until 1957. More of the chain's racist merchandise was on sale, like a poster marked down to $18. When pressed about the juxtaposition of swastikas with Black Americana and racist caricatures, store owner Ike Abbas defended the vendor's option to sell whatever they want in a space rented from Abbas for $55 per month. The population of Redmond is 90% white, a demographic rooted in Oregon's legacy of systemic racism.
And that's your news on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Welcome to the Fitness Corner. I'm your host, Mark Bryant, and you're going to get a whole total body workout on my show, starting off with a warm-up, aerobics, strength training, cool down, and stretching every Friday from 11:30 to 12 right here on Rainier Avenue Radio.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Check us out on social media, Facebook and Instagram, Rainier Avenue Radio.world, and on Twitter at Rainier Av Radio.
Anthony, you were getting ready to make a really great point. It looks like we're back on. I just want to let our community out there know that if you have any questions, if you want to call in, the number is 206-290-9685. Thank you for tuning into Rainier Avenue Radio, for your support. And Rainier Avenue, grateful for you for building this platform to get these voices out there.
Yeah, the point I was going to make is that, when it comes to politics, we aren't just trying to get people out of a seat. That ain't the goal, right? When it comes to getting involved in politics, it's also about supporting those who are doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So it's not just say, hey, it's easy to be oppositional. It's easy to say, hey, we need to get this person out of that seat. But also when somebody's doing the right thing, to acknowledge that, support them, and be as motivated to get out the vote, if not more motivated, to make sure that they stay in that position because they're doing the right thing. So to acknowledge that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I apologize for not touching on that. We definitely want to support people who are doing good. And it's not just about displacing people, or replacing people. We want to work collaboratively and collectively to move our issues forward, and make sure that they get just as much as attention as anybody else. So great. Thank you for making that point. Let's see. And so we talked about, how we center our children, investing in Black business, getting involved politically. And so what would be the next one then?
The next one is to gain financial literacy. Understand how money works. Understand how the process works. A lot of people will get discouraged because they think of college for 7 years or 8 years to understand money, when that's not the case. You can learn some fundamentals about how the financial system works, and then you can do a lot of things that people thought was impractical. So it's definitely good to gain a financial literacy, and then you can make a lot of money. When you think about money in a different way, you can make a lot more money. I'll give you an example of. This is not necessarily a deep example, but an example is yesterday my garage door opener started acting up. Right, I was about to call a locksmith because I was like, man, I've been trying to fix this thing, and finally I just looked at YouTube, and 5 minutes later, saved me $80. $80 might be significant. It might not be significant depending on somebody's financial situation, but everything adds up. Every penny contributes to $1, right?
Yeah.
So everything adds up. So when we have a financial literacy, a financial mindset, and we know that everything adds up, and we understand how money works, how housing loans work, how everything else works, when we understand the process, then it contributes to us advancing a lot quicker and building Black wealth.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. I love that. As someone who, lived through poverty, within my own household, but, and then coming out of the foster care system and being a teen parent, never learning how to balance a checkbook, not even learning how to pay my own rent, is something that I had to work at. I had to teach myself. I'm like, how are people doing this? How are people not getting evicted? How are people, even if I did have a job, like, where am I putting my money towards, how am I saving, it's so very important, and one of the things that I'm so, proud of today is that, I was able to, look at where the gaps are in, systems where I was working to reform, get funding, create a program, hire people, and make sure that that work is being done with integrity and authenticity, because I lived through that. I navigated those systems solely on my own without support. But now, through this peer-based model, we can come alongside those individuals and walk them through the process, so they're not alone and struggling or, isolated and just feeling hopeless, right? And I'm happy to say that, everything that I've done for, my 5 children, my 11 grandchildren, my community, the people I love and I care for, we work hard, to make sure that, our family and the generations that come after us are, leading from where we're leaving off, that they're not starting over and learning on their own, just like we had to do.
Yeah, exactly. And that financial education actually leads to the 5th one in building the 10 keys to building Black wealth, which is to have your priorities in order. When you have that financial education, then it's easier to have your priorities in order. Everybody needs to blow off some steam, but you don't need to go to the club outside of COVID times and get to spend the money that you ain't have, right? You don't have. So, or people chasing things that don't add stability to their lives. I see some of my friends who are in their 40s, right? And they're still trying to go have one night stands. That doesn't lead to stability in your life. And a lot of the money that you spend on that stuff and the time that you spend on that stuff takes away from actually creating true stability and living that lifestyle. Just being frank with it, right? It doesn't contribute to a healthy mindset. It doesn't contribute to financial stability, and it's just you're chasing the moment and you're really not building anything.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That comes with hard lessons learned, right? Being in prison or being in jail and stuff, and having to have this high level of emotional maturity, and regulation to be able to navigate in there, because those are systems of violence and death, and you got to keep your mental health intact. You got to keep your physical health intact. So many things, and I think that we come out either worse or we come out better, right? And we just had the fortunate opportunity to come out better, and now we can help build awareness in our community, on what the struggle is, and how to maintain that focus, because there's other things that you could be doing, investing your time, and your energy in. The same energy that I invested in getting myself locked up, I turn that around and use it for good now, and that's just, that's just a route that we have to go,
Carmen, one of my favorite sayings is people are like minerals, like gold and silver, right? And it's not, it's not just one of my favorite sayings just because of what it says on the surface, but how I understand that to mean, right? Because when you take gold or silver out of the ground, it just looks like a clunk of dirt. You might have some sparkly stuff in it, right? I'm talking about like when you're mining the big pieces, right? But that gold or silver, it has to go through the smelter, right? So you have to put the fire to it, and it gets all the scum up to the top, and then you scrape the scum off, right? So unrefined gold is not worth as much as refined silver. So regardless of what your personal potential is, you have to go through the fire and figure out what gunk you need to get out your life so that you can live up to your potential, right? So, we all have to go through the fire, and prison is one of those things where, it could be the fire that refines you or the fire that destroys you, and we're just fortunate that it refined us.
Yes, gosh, I love that. That was a wonderful example. And I'm gonna hold that in my heart and think about that, and try to articulate it to others too, because that's an important message. Uh, let's see. Okay, we are on the sixth key. Yeah, let's talk about that. That's critical. That's good stuff.
Choose wisely who your significant other is. I mean, make sure you got personalities that line up. They're going to affect the majority of your wealth, not just because of their credit score, because credit scores can be repaired, right? But how they want to live their life, how do they want to have their spending habits and everything else. It's going to affect your entire financial future. It's going to affect your children's financial futures. So to really just take your time, find the right person, make that connection, and let it build into something healthy. But really be able to have that communication in the beginning, not just the communication to maintain the relationship, but have that communication in the beginning of, hey, this is what I'm looking for. What are you looking for out of life? And really understand and see if it's a good match. And just don't commit to something early because the person looks good or something. But really find out if the foundation is good, so you can build a future. And that's one of the keys in building wealth, is getting in the right relationship and working together as a team.
And I think that's something so important, like something that we lost, along the way and stuff, just out of need, for, perceived protection, or, who's got our back, who's there supporting us and stuff. And oftentimes that person that we think is supporting us is actually bringing us down. I love nothing more than to see, couples, married couples or partners together, like building wealth together, like they started their own business, now their children are working in the business and taking it over, they're buying homes, they're making sure that, once they built their wealth up, then they're supporting that next generation to do the same. I mean, that's beautiful. And that's something we don't talk about, right? We don't talk about, relationships and, even if you look at the trauma of slavery, how we were ripped away from, our families and our loved ones, and how much harm that caused and stuff. And, and one of the things that I, often talk about and stuff is because we've been so indoctrinated into these systems of, white supremacy, that oftentimes, we lose that sight of what is well for us. We know it. We're born intuitively with that information, but we're conditioned to do otherwise. We're conditioned to harm ourselves, through our actions and our choices and behaviors. So part of that liberation process, liberating from the harmful effects of colonization and white supremacy, is to be radical, right? Is to do the opposite of what they want. They want us on the ground fighting for these crumbs. You see with the Black Lives Matter movement, white, the power structure, I don't want to offend anybody, is so destabilized, and dysregulated, because they see Black people coming for that power, the power that they have so abused for years and years and years. And we're coming forward to do good. We're coming forward to do for everybody, not just our communities. We want to support, look at our humanity, we can do it better, I always tell people, when you're trying to get that your foot in the door, people say I think about inserting my foot. I think about finding access points, the window, peeling back the drywall, and I'm not coming by myself. I'm bringing my people with me.
Yeah, exactly.
Make space. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Anthony. So, this next one, invest in property. That's it.
It's like you're talking about earlier. It's one of the most significant reasons of the wealth gap is because in large part Black people in this country aren't homeowners, right? And that's the same thing with the COVID relief for the businesses. There's a lot of housing discrimination when it comes to loans, right? Because of how Black people are perceived. So it could be implicit biases. It could be It could be all out racism, but it could also just be implicit bias. Somebody not, we've been so conditioned in this country. So, and it also is another thing, people not believing it's possible.
Yeah. That's
it's like they'd rather pay. You look at the things we talked about earlier with financial education and everything else, but they'd rather pay a rent. I was talking to one of my friends in Spokane. I was like, why don't you go for a FHA loan, first time homeowners loan, where they pay your down payment and you just have to pay it off within 30 years. Because he was paying $900 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment in Spokane, and I was showing him how he could buy a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house in Spokane with an FHA loan, and the mortgage would be $750 a month. So it's like you'd actually pay $150 less a month if you just move through the process. So it's understanding the process, it's understanding financial education, financial literacy, and then once you understand those things, start investing in the future. So we have to invest in properties.
Yeah, that I'm thinking about one of my former colleagues. Her and her husband, they would buy homes and to flip them. Buy homes at auction. $30,000, and then once they purchase that home, they would take out an equity credit card and use that as the down payment on the next home. So they always have it lined up. And I love nothing more than to see our Black realtors out there creating space, for Black home ownership, and I see that up here. I have, one of my colleagues, Latrice Williams, she has her own realty business. This is a woman who, did time in prison, who, was out there, fighting for her life, a mother, a wife, out there advocating for her community. As soon as she got out, as soon as she hit the ground running. She got her realty license. She's up there taking care of our community now. And that's stuff that we need to do, and we need to know that it's possible, right? Because we've been told no so many times. That oftentimes, to feel that there is hope. It takes that radical intent, right? And that belief process. Yeah. Great.
Which actually leads into the 8th key of building Black wealth.
I see that.
To build out plans and to believe in yourself, because you're going to have people discouraging you. You're going to have people who are hating on your ideas. You're going to have people who are telling you it is not possible. Why are you wasting your time?
Right.
You can't listen to that.
Right. Yep.
And so you have to build out your plans. You have to have a vision. One of the things that I like to do, I like to set a goal and then figure out how I'm going to achieve that goal. So here's the goal, what I need to achieve the goal, and then what I need to do to get the things that I need to achieve the goal, right? So first you have to believe in yourself. But if you start listening to people who are discouraging you, then you're never going to get anywhere, right? Yeah. You're never going to get anywhere. So an important part of that is don't tell everybody your goals. Tell people who are going to encourage you. Because regardless, it has an impact on you when you're hearing somebody trying to be discouraging. Even if you're not trying to hear it, you're still hearing them say that, and it still influence your behaviors. So if you're hearing people who are really wanting the best for you, who do believe in you, share your goals with them. And a lot of times, those people who want what's in your best interest, they can be like, "Oh yeah, well I know so and so, or I know so and so," and then next thing you know, you got a whole team around you who's helping you to advance towards your goals. And when you reach your goals, then you can reach back and start helping other people reach their goals as well. So you have to have a plan and believe in your plan, and don't get discouraged when things aren't going well.
Yeah, wow, yeah, that is so true. And I'm just thinking about the justice system. They had this, I think it was a $400,000 grant, and they're going around to all these different, leaders in the community, like, what should we do with this money? What should we do with this money? I said, you know what, why don't you bring us all in together into a room together, and let us brainstorm on that, and it took several meetings, but, finally they just threw down their pen. They were like, all right, Carmen, put a team together, and I did it. And, we got the funding and stuff. We didn't need them writing it for us, telling us what program or whatever, to do. We needed to be able to create something on our own that was going to benefit our people and stuff. And I love that don't get discouraged by the haters. And that so much ties into, your relationship, right? That person that you're aligned with, that you're closest to, are they your cheerleader? Are you their cheerleader? Are you, both supporting equal interest? Yeah, that's good stuff. Thank you.
And so the ninth key of building Black wealth is to get educated. And when I say get educated, I'm not saying to go to college, right? Because that could set you back financially, actually. But you go to college if you need to, right? Yeah. Financial aid and all student loans and all that, right? But get educated in any manner that you're able to get educated in, because you never know how that's going to come back around later on in life. And then you got a broad range of expertise, so to speak. So it's never pass up the opportunity to gain beneficial knowledge. So that's the key to building wealth. Yeah.
It's so funny that you said that, because I've been talking for about a year now, because I finished up my master's degree, and I'm somebody, like I said, I came out of the child welfare system. I had to go and get my GED, then, I'm battling, addiction and trying to, navigate all these systems and stuff. And so I didn't get my bachelor's degree until 2008. And then 2018, I got my master's. And I'm like, I'm just going to get me like a nice little fake certificate and put on a cap and gown and say, I got my PhD now, because I feel like I've worked for it. Can I get an honorary one, right? Because I owe tons of student loans, so I'm not going back into the formal educational system, right? I'm looking for the informal ways, one of the things that, I push for is to get more people of color, like, trained as peer counselors. Peer counselors are, they're doing the work, and I don't know how much they're getting paid over there, but our peer counselors over here, like, I fought for an equitable wage. They said, oh, we're going to pay them $39,000 a year. I'm like, no, we're not. We're going to pay them $62,000 a year. And all you have to have is a high school diploma to get your peer counselor. It's a 40-hour training, And so making sure that those access points are outside of the formal education, where, the system is going to, look at our student loans and say, debt to income ratio, you're never going to be able to buy a home, And while we're at it, let's work on getting all those waived, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you have an excellent point there too, Carmen, is that, we look at formal education, and formal education is important, and there is value in it, right? But a lot of times our lived experience and the things that we learn along the way, working in different arenas.
Yeah.
We do have a PhD in certain things, because the PhD that people get in college is because they're trying to teach them the stuff that we learned firsthand.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
That's true. I just signed a contract with Empire Health Foundation as a consultant. I get paid $175 an hour. 30 years ago, when minimum wage was $3.75 an hour, I was working as a motel maid, 9 months pregnant. Who's going to make ends meet with $3.75 an hour?
Exactly.
I need to buy me a pack of cigarettes. I don't smoke no more. But you know what I'm saying? I get that. That's a good key points. Utilize all that life experience. Let's see. Okay, we're at 10.
We're at number 10, right? So real life is the social media, right? So a lot of people want to put all their business out there. I mean, I just bought a house, but I didn't post the house on social media. One, you don't want nobody coming to your door. Hell no. You're gonna Google image my house. So but it can make you a target. It can make you a target. People trying to rob you, right? Or something worse, right? And but also if people don't understand, how wealth works, how money works, right? Mm-hmm. They can see you with things. They can see you with your vehicle. They can see you with your house. They can see you with certain things, and then they can automatically think that you just got a ton of money and now you're a target to get robbed. It's like, it's like that's not really how things work, right? So you don't always have to put everything out there. Share with people who care about you. And you don't have to put everything out there, because it can create a lot of jealousy and animosity, but it could also have a lot of people asking who don't need to ask, and it can ruin relationships because people think you have more. And then, I personally like to help people out as much as I can, right?
Yeah.
But there's that part of financial education that if you give too much away, you're going to be Josephine Baker. You're going to be, in the process of trying to help, you end up making yourself broke. So it's important to don't take the social media approach, so to speak, and put all your business out there. So if you're gonna build wealth, then you need to do it in a way just like you don't see a lot of rich people putting it out there outside of celebrities. They just live a basic life, and they understand that they understand how money works, and they understand that you don't just put all your business out there. You'll help where you can, you build your community where you can, but you also acknowledge the fact that you're living your life and you're not going to contaminate or ruin relationships because you put too much out there, and then people have different expectations that you're really not able to fulfill.
Right. I just remember somebody getting so upset because, the realtor person, she had bought a new car. She's working hard. She's got 7 kids and a husband. She needs the car. She deserves a new car. Spend that. You have to account to everybody for what you have.
Yeah, exactly.
And celebrating which each one of us have been working so hard to build up, and, through these steps, teaching others or at least building awareness for others and stuff. It's not a competition, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. Like we've been saying, like we all come together, we all rise together.
And not to operate from a position of lack. Too many people operate from a position of lack. Like there's not enough to go around, right?
Yeah, that scarcity mindset is harmful.
Come together, we're actually, exactly. It's super harmful. And when we come together, we can build a lot more, and we can do a lot more than when we're just, fighting for scraps.
Yes, yeah. So, we have just a few minutes left. What do you think, for somebody who's looking, like, what is the first step, Somebody's looking at developing these 10 principles, and building them up themselves or accessing them. What's the first step?
The first step is really to make that personal assessment of where you're at financially, where you're at as far as financial education, and where you're at financially as far as what type of means do you have and what do you need to do in order to get to where you need to be, right? I mean, like you talk about working at a hotel. I've done worked hotel, construction, everything else, and then built my own business. And then, I just kept advancing, right? So, but it's like you have to have those goals, and you have to have the realization of, hey, look, this is where I'm at. I'm going to need to sacrifice. When I'm making money, I can't just spend it up. I have to build, and I have to have a process. But in order to do that, you have to do that self-analysis first and foremost to understand where you're at so you can understand where you need to go.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Anthony. And thank you, Rainier Avenue Radio. It was a pleasure, coming to you, reaching out to the communities, bringing this information out to you. And we're just really grateful for this opportunity. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been good.